welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name's Ozzie, and I'm your host for today's show. Before we get into our normal scheduled program, it's just been confirmed that um, Manchester United will be facing Villarreal in the Europa League final. So, commiserations to Arsenal, who were unable to score in the second leg, unfortunately. So, it's not going to be an all English final, as I'm sure a lot of us would have wanted for the love of the Premier League, but unfortunately that's not been the case. But we can start our review of the Champions League semi-finals. So let's get into it straight away. So Man City, what a fantastic performance by City. For me, that game just showed another level of their game. In the past, City have always had sort of a weak area in regards to their defense, the central defense area in particular, and they seem to be quite vulnerable in the past. But this game, they were just amazing in terms of how they played collectively as a team. Um, they soaked in all the pressure, mainly in the first half. I don't think PSG did enough in the second half to do anything or try to challenge for a goal. And Diaz was just immense, making several blocks throughout the game. Mahrez, um, goal scorer twice during this fixture, had a fantastic game. But for me, the star of the show was Phil Foden. Unbelievable performance from him, way beyond his years in terms of how he performed. One thing I would like to say is regarding the English media, we tend to overhype our young players, and I think the comparisons right now is with Messi, with Foden, and I don't think we should go into that lane right now because he's a young player. He needs to develop into his own. There's no need to make comparisons with arguably one of the greatest players of all time. So for me, his performance was breathtaking. So unlucky not to score where he hit the post later on in the second half. But I was just impressed in terms of his technical ability, um, but more so his maturity in terms of his passing selection and his overall game. For me, he was man of the match. But let's give full credit to Man City. They fully deserved to be in the final. Over the two legs, they were by far the better team. PSG let me down. I had them tipped as potential Champions League winners. It wasn't to be, but for me, they just never performed. In the first leg, they had Mbappe, so there's no excuses that they were playing a weaker PSG team. They had a full strength team in the first leg, which was a home fixture, and they never did anything. Um, and for me, that's not an excuse to use. Icardi is not on the same level, let's be honest, but they still had enough talent to kind of challenge City or trouble the defense because they had chances. I remember Di Maria had a more or less like an open goal from 20 yards. If that had gone in, it would have just changed the whole spectrum of the game. But yeah, you have to give credit to Man City in terms of how they performed. And speaking of Di Maria, what a ridiculous red card from him. He just lost his rag really towards the end of the game. For PSG, another season where unfortunately they couldn't conquer. Last year they were in the final. This year they missed out in the semi-final. It's back to the drawing board for them. Right now they're fighting for their league title, so normally they'd win that straight away, but they're second, currently 1 point behind Lille. So I guess that's the main focus for the rest of their season. But we can speak on to the second tie, which was Chelsea versus Real Madrid. So, because Chelsea won, looks like an all-English Champions League final, just like it was a couple of years ago with Liverpool and Tottenham. So, great advertisement for Premier League football there. But in regards to the game, Chelsea were fantastic. For me, I said Phil Foden stole the show. For me, Kante stole the show in this fixture. He was fantastic. Played a big hand in the first goal. The second goal itself, clever play by Pulisic, where I feel like most wingers, when in that sort of tight position, they would just cross the ball by hitting it on the face of the goal. But he took his time, was collected, and found the pass for Mount, who just finished it fantastically, running ahead of Militao. Fantastic play by the young attackers there. From a Real Madrid perspective, I think the return of Ramos kind of hindered the team because he just seemed so slow and sluggish with his reactions. Definitely had an impact in that team. But I'm not saying he's the sole reason as to why they do well. It's just one of those things I noticed during the game. But for me, Real Madrid were awful in this leg. First leg, they were okay, but they just didn't do anything. They didn't really try to attack. The only person that looked like he would do anything is Benzema. And it's unfair to depend everything on him. For me, they should have done a lot better. Benzema did actually have a great chance just before half time where he had a header, headed it straight to the goalkeeper. For me, he should have done a bit better there. But the cross, when he received it, it didn't have enough power. So I guess generating that power can be a difficult one, especially if it's coming from behind. But nevertheless, massive, massive credit to Chelsea. Great tactics and great game plan by Tuchel. They didn't allow Madrid a sniff whatsoever throughout the game, and they fully deserved the win. So, Chelsea versus Man City, that is the final. I think in terms of bookmakers or however you want to phrase it, City are the favourites to win the Champions League, simply because I think on paper overall they're the better team, and also they beat the tougher opponent in my opinion to get to the final. But since Tuchel has been appointed as Chelsea manager, Chelsea's form has been on the same level as Man City. So I read a stat earlier on today where Tuchel has managed to beat Pep, Klopp, Zidane, Ancelotti, Mourinho, and Simeone twice. Won all of the games and didn't concede a single goal. So that is levels, literally. And you have to give him props. And look, I'll put my hands up and I'll say honestly, when Tuchel got appointed, I was not dismissive. I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I just said it as a neutral point that I don't think he's a great coach. I thought he was bang average based on what I've seen during his time in Dortmund and PSG. But he's certainly proved me wrong. I've been so impressed in terms of how tactically astute he is, because I didn't really notice that in his previous reign as managers for Dortmund or PSG. So yeah, I have to be honest and give my props there to him. But in regards to make a prediction for the Champions League final, I'm a bit torn. I don't have a clear-cut win in my head. But if I was to be put on the spot, I just have a gut feeling that Chelsea might just nick it. Because they're so hard to score against. I feel like if they were able to attack, and their attack's good as well, they've got a lot of pace and power. So if they were able to attack a score, it might just nick it. I think it's going to be a very, very tight game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments in terms of who you think will win this year's Champions League final, because it's going to be an exciting match. I believe it takes place in 3 weeks' time. So I look forward to there. Got a couple comments here from mental health guy. Man City is good, but I feel like they were more fortunate compared to the last couple of years. Fair point there. I think in terms of the teams that they had to beat to get to the final was probably there's no such thing as easy fixture in the Champions League, but in comparison to others, yes, I guess in that form, it's pretty true. It's true, but it's the Champions League. There will be teams where you don't expect to be troubled and surprise results are pulled out the bag. So you have to give credit to Man City in terms of how they performed. They haven't conceded many goals. I believe they've conceded 4 in the whole competition. So that shows that their defense has been really solid and they performed at a high level. So definitely feel like credit has been overdue for Man City in terms of how they performed this season in the Champions League. And then your second comment is outside the one piece of brilliance from Benzema in the first leg, Chelsea had them under control, 100%. They had him in full control. Benzema, I think when I was doing the analysis of Liverpool and Real Madrid beforehand, I said that the only goal threat is Benzema in terms of how they play. They rely heavily on him. And for me, these two legs against Chelsea was just proof there, to be honest with you. Vinicius, for me, was amazing against Liverpool in the second leg. Just a different player. a shadow of a player in terms of how he performed in the next two legs. Hazard, for me, he's just not the same player anymore, unfortunately. As great as he was in the Champions League, in the Premier League, his career hasn't really started in Real Madrid. So, and will it start? Who knows? Because I don't think he's a big. I don't know if you've been on social today. There was a clip going around of the Spanish television news channel, I think it was, where they were not impressed in terms of um, his post match antics. Not really antics, but he was basically having a little joke with his former mates at Chelsea. And yeah, they're making him seem like the most wanted person in Madrid right now. So poor guy, uh, feel like he's become the scapegoat for that loss, which is not shouldn't be the case because it wasn't down to him. It was a team performance. They were awful in both of the legs and should have done a lot more in terms of how they performed. Because against Liverpool they did okay. I'll be honest with Liverpool. I think they were lucky. Liverpool just didn't play in the first leg. That half an hour just killed the whole leg and killed the whole tie in general. So I feel like they were quite fortunate there. But against Chelsea, that was always going to be a difficult one. And Chelsea got their reward. So congrats to Chelsea and congrats to Man City. An exciting final, which actually, to be fair, isn't confirmed in terms of where it will be taking place. Originally, it should have been taking place in Istanbul, but I think due to Turkey being in the red zone right now, fans aren't able to visit the country or purchase tickets to actually watch the game. So there's rumours that Aston Villa have come forward and suggested that they could be the neutral ground as it's two English teams and present the Champions League final there. So remains to be seen how that happens, but we'll see how that goes. Um, Speaking of the Premier League, we can start doing our analysis or roundup, I should say, of match week 34. So one of the biggest games that was supposed to take place, unfortunately didn't. So Manchester United versus Liverpool was postponed due to violent protests that took place outside Old Trafford. Um, yeah, I've got a comment here from Mental Health Guy. Does Ruben Diaz deserve Ballon d'Or? No. As fantastic of a season he's had, I think Ballon d'Or's, if they win it, then I guess he is in the conversation. I guess because they won the Champions League and then the league as well. So it's not an outrageous shout, but for me, I feel like there's other players in world football that probably deserve it. But in terms of defenders, yeah, he's definitely in the running. I feel like the impact that Van Dijk had for Liverpool was a bigger impact in my opinion. But fantastic first season for Ruben Diaz. I didn't think he was. I knew he was a good player, but I didn't think he had the maturity to play at the Premier League at this stage. Because the way I used to see him perform for Benfica, he was quite rash in his tackles and overly aggressive. But under the coaching of Pep Guardiola, he's definitely tamed that down, and he's very calm and collective and composed on the ball. So, in terms of your question, definitely he's there for a shout, but I'd probably give it to other candidates if I'm honest with you. So back to Manchester United versus Liverpool. So the protest. So I'm going to be brutally honest here. It probably started with the intention of being a peaceful protest, but what we witnessed was absolutely disgusting behaviour from the minority of Manchester United fans. It's not. I'm not going to say all United fans or just United fans in general because it's a certain number of people that you know did the stuff that we saw on TV, unfortunately. So what I'm referring to is people attacking the police, breaking into the stadium, vandalizing, stealing corner flags. The list goes on and on and on. It was not a peaceful protest, and this was hooligan behaviour. And let's be honest, by the United fans. And to make it worse, we had good old Gary Neville, who was more or less backing the protest and believed there was no harm in terms of what was being done. And then he started talking about Liverpool as well in terms of our ownership and our issues. Firstly, he needs to stay in his place and speak about what was happening at that time, which was his beloved club, his fans that are doing these protests in a violent way. It's got nothing to do with Liverpool. Liverpool, there weren't no Liverpool fans there. This is a United thing. So this is an internal issue there. And for me, I'll be honest, I used to rate him as a pundit, but since Liverpool won the league, I can just tell he's had this chip on his shoulder, this agenda that anytime he could take a dig at Liverpool, he's first one to do that. And for me, that's not. If you're a pundit, you're supposed to be neutral. I don't care what your affiliation is. And for me, that's just, I don't like watching people like that. And I've actually resorted to watching less Sky Sports because of that kind of commentary and analysis presented by himself. Obviously, I'm just one person, but I'm sure a lot of Liverpool fans will feel the same way in terms of how I feel. But to make it worse, the pictures that I saw, he was walking around in the stadium, shaking people's hands, spudding them, walking around like he's some sort of kingpin. And I saw another clip. I won't say the language because I'm trying to keep it PG here. But there was a lot of abuse towards Graham Souness and Jamie Carragher in terms of them being, Jamie Carragher more being a scouse. I'm not going to say the words that they used. And he's just there shaking everyone's hand like, he doesn't care. If that's your colleague or that's your mate, you back it, or you say, watch your language, boys. Like, you're here. To be fair, he shouldn't be shaking their hands in the first place. Like, for him to do that, for me, it was like he was proud that they did that because he's been very vocal in terms of his dislike of the Glazers in the last few weeks, especially since the whole Super League announcement took place a few weeks ago. He's been very vocal. So for me, he hasn't had a direct hand, but he's definitely influenced the actions that took place during that protest. And he has to take some sort of responsibility because he won't know it, or he should know it. Whatever he says on Sky Sports will speak volumes to a lot of people. So if he's expresses frustrations like that, the fans are going to feel the same way. And I'll be honest with you, there was a lot of fans there that literally were bored and just treated it like a day out. And they wanted to just cause chaos during that day. There's nothing about watching a spectacle or being amongst fellow United fans. They just wanted to come and cause trouble. So for me, disgusting behavior from the fans there. I feel like United should have United should have actually known that something was going to happen because there were strong rumors that I knew about a few days beforehand that these protests were going to take place and it wasn't going to be a friendly one. So I don't have any special sources. So if I'm finding this kind of news a few days before the fixture, it came to no surprise to me that that match got postponed because I had it on in the background. I knew there was no match going to take place. So for me, back to Gary Neville. So he says the protest was down to the Super League. Partially, it might have been, but it wasn't. And I'll be honest with you. And I'll give you a reason why I believe it's not. The protest was more to do with the fans' dissatisfaction of the owners not injecting any money into the club and using the club as cash cows to add more money, basically for their own pockets. So refusing to spend money, which is probably not true because I do feel like United spend a lot of money. It's just that their noisy neighbours have signed top players in the past, are on the verge of winning the league, possibly the Champions League, the treble, more or less. So they're on the verge of breaking records by winning numerous trophies right now. So this is more of the outrage from United fans because, and I'm going to say bluntly as well, United are going to play the Europa League final. Man City are going to play the Champions League final. For me, that's a power shift. And as much as you're a United fan, you might not like to hear that. It's a fact now. So this is why these fans are protesting, because they're worried about their club not being able to compete or invest heavily in players like your Sanchos and your Haalands, because the Glazers aren't budging. They're not spending money. And it's not just the Glazers. All of the owners within the Premier League, especially the American ones, like FSG, are in the same boat. they're refusing to spend any money at Liverpool whatsoever. We've got that buy to sell policy, so that's not going to change. And during the pandemic, where a lot of losses have been made, it's not going to be any different. So the whole irony of this whole situation is that fans were protesting a couple of weeks ago about the Super League and how the Glazers are, you know, more about money, power, greed, all that sort of stuff. But from a fan's perspective, we're no different. Well, I'm not talking about we, as in myself. I'm talking about United fans here. They want to get rid of their current owners so they could have new owners like the Man City owner who will come and splash the cash and buy players like it's fantasy football so they can be back at the top again. So everything comes down to money, greed, and power. That's the hypocrisy right now presented to you. 2 weeks ago, we're protesting saying, oh, the Glazers, all they care about is money. And now you're protesting against them because they're not spending money. So it's just like the football world is a mental world right now in terms of how it is business-wise. You can't please fans one way, and at the same time, even when you do try to do the right things for the club, it's never enough. So I'm not taking sides here, but I just feel like if you want to protest, there's a certain way of doing it. Liverpool fans, we've been protesting since Gillette and Hicks days. So we almost went bust because of those owners. So we were protesting. We never once gate crashed into Anfield or harmed any police officers or anything like that. We did it through voice, and that's how it should have been done. And for pundits like Gary Neville and Roy Keane to kind of say, no, it was done well, like they have a right to do that. No, they don't. What they're doing is a criminal act. So for me, disgusting behavior. And to have Gary Neville not speak about it afterwards, it's nearly a week since that happened, and he's not spoken about it. So for me, shows his character as a person, and I don't respect him at all whatsoever. So couldn't care less about him whatsoever. But back to the football itself, this fixture has been rescheduled for 13th of May. So that means that United will have to play 3 games in 4 days. There were calls to say that Liverpool should just be awarded the 3 points. I think that was one of the considerations, but I guess some would say that's injustice to teams like West Ham and Leicester or Chelsea that are trying to get that 4th spot, because that 3 point will literally give Liverpool a big advantage. And there's no guarantee that Liverpool would actually beat Manchester United. So it is what it is. It's been rescheduled now. Can't complain about it that you're playing 3 games in 4 days. That's what happens. You have to face the consequences there. So I've got no issue about it whatsoever. So yeah. So now back to football and less of the off-field stuff. We can go into one of the fixtures that took place: Southampton versus Leicester City. So Southampton produced a good performance to get a good point against Leicester City. So took the lead with a handball by Iheanacho, and Ward-Prowse converted inch-perfect penalty into the bottom corner. So not expecting anything less from him. Amazing at set pieces. The equaliser came from a nice header from Evans, who for me has been in great form for the Foxes and deserves to be in the score sheet there. So in terms of Leicester City's performance or league position right now, they sit in 3rd position comfortably. So yeah, I don't think they have any worries in terms of their position there, but yeah, they're sitting comfortably. So the next fixture, Crystal Palace versus Man City. So this was a total domination from Manchester City. The first goal itself, nice cross by Mendy to Aguero, who controlled it, lovely first touch, and bang, fantastic strike, hit the roof of the net. Typical Aguero goal that I'm sure we're used to seeing over the last 10 years. Fantastic striker, Premier League legend. And speaking of Aguero, actually, there has been a lot of rumours circulating today that he's in talks to join Barcelona in the summer this year. So for me, that move makes a lot of sense, to be honest. He'll be playing alongside one of his close friends, which is Lionel Messi, returning to Spain, playing for a top club. It's a perfect move for both club and player, where there's no transfer fee involved. So I can definitely see that happening, to be fair. I know there were strong rumors that Memphis Depay was the one that Barcelona would sign, but that leak has kind of gone cold now. So I think there's a lot of truth with, well, we'll see how it goes. You know how rumors are, but I think there is some truth in this story here. But back to the game, sorry. The second goal itself, nice left footed finish by Torres. Good play from Jesus and Sterling to set up Torres in the first place. Regarding City, they'll have to wait to be crowned champions as they play against Chelsea on the weekend. So a sneak preview of the Champions League there. So exciting fixture for us to watch on the weekend. And speaking of Chelsea, they were facing their neighbours in the West London derby. For me, it was a comfortable victory there for Chelsea. Havertz grabbed the double. First goal was a nice goal, but for me, the second goal really stood out in terms of the interplay between himself and Werner. Fantastic finish from him. Like I said, comfortable win for Chelsea there. But Fulham, on the other hand, unfortunately, their status as a Premier League team is no longer existing right now as they have been relegated. So for me, the key to their future success is actually keeping hold of Scott Parker, who for me has shown glimpses of becoming a quality manager, to be fair. There are actually rumours that Tottenham are looking to maybe appoint him as a replacement for Jose Mourinho. Remains to be seen. I think, me personally, I don't think that's the right step for Tottenham to appoint Scott Parker. But because he used to play there, I don't know, there's a sort of link there, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes regarding that story there. Next fixture, Newcastle versus Arsenal. So a good win for Arsenal there, which is a tricky fixture away against Newcastle. The first goal was one of unlikely of scorers, El Neni scoring from a long distance shot. So surprising to see him on the score sheet, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. And a second goal, great cross by Martinelli, who for me was very impressive in that game. Produced a great left footed cross to Aubameyang, who produced a flying close range finish, which was great for the striker there. Solid win for the Gunners there, who play 2 fixtures in match week 35. So they play West Brom and Chelsea. So tough games for them coming up. And the final fixture that I'll be analysing is Tottenham versus Sheffield United. So a solid win for Spurs there. Gareth Bale, fantastic form. Hat-trick hero again. First goal was a nice finish, lifting the ball over the goalkeeper's head. Second goal, through on goal, which was a bit of a surprise because everyone says that he lost a bit of speed. But for me, he still got it there a little bit. So lovely finish though, top corner. Really, really impressive finish. And the third goal, assist by Aurier, and nice finish by Bell just off the outside of the box. So, yeah, fantastic hat-trick from him. Son got involved as well and scored a fantastic curler in the top corner to make it 4-0. Great performance and great win for Spurs there. Unfortunately for me, I don't think top 4 is realistic now. It's a bit of a stretch. But in terms of to rescue their season, the aim is to try and finish as high as possible. So finishing 5th is not out of bounds, and it still be a decent season, I think. So, you know, they have to keep going in regards to that. So I will now present my team of the week for match week 34. So here's my team here. So in terms of my selection, I've gone for Edison in goal, simply because he kept a clean sheet and made some good saves. I've also gone for another Man City player, Mendy, for the assist for Aguero's fantastic goal. I've also gone for Evans. Well, firstly, I've actually gone for different formations. So I've gone for a traditional 4-4-2. So my 2 centre-back pairing, I've got Evans, who for me, fantastic for Leicester and was on the score sheet. Dunk, fantastic performance for Brighton there and kept a clean sheet for his team. Aurier had 2 assists, so I definitely had to be in the team of the week there. My midfield 4, Son, goal and assist. El Ghazi, for me, scored one of the goal of the week, one of the best goals of the week. Fantastic curler to get the win for Aston Villa there. Havertz scored twice and was on the score sheet. Gareth Bale hat-trick hero, so I can't rule him out. Antonio bagged a couple goals, slowly showing his form now. He's been out for a few months, but definitely making his presence in that West Ham team. And Aguero simply for that goal, clutch moment there, fantastic finish from him. Now, before I do the preview of match week 35, I'll quickly do a roundup of the Fantasy Premier League. So I will just double check to see how I performed. Fortunately, I had a few Liverpool and United players in my team, so I don't think I got very high points. I got 29. So yeah, not the best of weeks for me. But one gentleman in our fantasy league that had a good week is Musa Sarfraz. So he scored 64 points in a week where there was a match postponed. So well done, Musa. Very good in terms of performance for match week 34. Now, before we conclude the episode, I will give preview of match week 35. So because of the postponed match between Liverpool and Manchester United, the fixture list has literally extended quite a bit now. So I'll actually speak about. There's 5 games that stand out for me, so we can quickly speak about it now. So Man City and Chelsea. So for me, this is the preview of the Champions League final that I think we're excited to see in terms of how the teams play. Now, if I was to give a prediction, excuse me, I'd probably just give it to Man City. I think it'll be a 1-0 to Man City. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that will be the result for the Champions League. I've gone for Chelsea to win the Champions League, so we'll see how well I do with my predictions there. I've not been too bad this year, but I did say PSG were to win it, and it's not happening. So we'll see how that goes. Next one for me, this doesn't seem like an important fixture, but I feel like it does have an importance because of Everton. I believe they still have a game in hand. So if they were to win, they would literally be just not far distant from the top 4. Outside chance, don't get me wrong, but if West Ham were to win, it would definitely cement their challenge for top 4. At this stage, it's not certain who will be 4th. So in terms of my prediction for this match, I would give it to West Ham. I'm going for 2-0 win for West Ham there. And then the third fixture, Chelsea versus Arsenal, London derby. Arsenal picking up form. Unfortunately, lost today. Well, they didn't lose. They lost the fixture. They drew against Villarreal. So taking that into consideration, I think the morale might be down within the Arsenal camp. I'm going to go for 3-1 victory for Chelsea. I think they're in cloud 9 right now in terms of the result that they've had, where they've basically reached the Champions League final. So that's the prediction I have for that fixture. The fourth fixture is Manchester United and Leicester City. So in terms of their league standing, it doesn't have too much importance because I think second is pretty much secure, and I think third is pretty much secure for Leicester City there. So I think in terms of the game, expecting a lot of squad rotation from Manchester United. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 prediction there. And the final fixture is Manchester United versus Liverpool. I think in the last episode I said a draw, but because of the congested fixture list for Manchester United, I'm going to go for Liverpool win. I think we might just nick it 1-0 because I feel like they will probably have to have a weakened team out there. So yeah, that's my prediction there. So we'll see how that goes for us. But yeah, so that wraps us for today. If you've enjoyed the episode and you've enjoyed my content, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Our next episode will be taking place next Friday, 14th of May at 10 p.m. UK time. So make it on your diary. We'll have a lot more to talk about as there's a lot of games to cover, especially in the Premier League. So yeah, lots to talk about next week. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys, and stay safe, and shall see you guys very soon. Take care.